morning, everyone, and welcome to Houston Oasis. We are so happy that you're here and looking forward to our Sunday gathering today. My name is Terry Hibbert-Ismert. I am a member of the board, and I'm also a member of the care response team. So in case anybody needs care or response, let me know, because we'll take care of that. Anyway, I like to start each meeting with a couple of our core values. People are more important than beliefs, and meaning comes from making a difference. And I think all of these are beautiful. Okay, we've got a great lineup for you today. We'll have a couple of songs from Benjamin Grafton, a moment from Jobouy Thompson, and our main talk is from Amy Monsky. So now we have our main speaker, Amy Monsky. Amy is the founder and executive director for Camp 42, bringing a week of secular fun, friends, and free thought to kids and adults in South Carolina, Florida, and Mississippi. Amy has served the free thought community since 2009 in various local, state, and national capacities, including director of Atheist Alliance of America. Come on, Amy. Thank you so much for being here.
Can everybody hear me okay? Can everybody see me okay? All right. So it's hard sometimes being only 4 feet, 12 and a half inches, but I'll try to, there we go. I think I can still see this. All right. So I want to talk about curiosity, and I've subtitled this Humanism Superpower. So I think it's kind of cool that I went after Jobouy's talk, where he talked about knowledge and how knowledge of knowledge is like a superpower. So I can't think of a better talk to go after than that. All right, so curiosity is the strong desire to know or to learn something. We all have different dispositions to different levels of curiosity, but curiosity is something that we all experience and something we can all nurture. I'm going to talk today about curiosity, about how our brains process curiosity, and what we can do to increase that curiosity, as well as why curiosity is beneficial and how it's a superpower. So there's so many huge minds that have been great innovators of technology or made great discoveries in science and other areas. And what they all have in common is curiosity. So we all kind of recognize Albert Einstein as a genius. And I really like this quote of his that says, "I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious." So curiosity really is accessible to everyone. All you need to do is, you don't need knowledge to start off. You can just want to know something. So I want to start off with what makes us curious. I think I messed my slide up, but originally this was all white sheep. And I was going to ask you, which of these is the most interesting? And you would look at it and say, I don't know, Amy, these are all white sheep. None of them are interesting. But apparently I deleted that. So the black sheep is the answer. I gave you the answer here. So the black sheep stands out. It's different. And so things that are different can pique our curiosity. Things that provide us with an unexpected outcome or don't follow a pattern, they can also arouse our curiosity. Extreme outliers, scientific research can be a cause for curiosity. All right, so another trigger for curiosity is what is called confounding evidence. This is when there can be. All right, so here is something I want you to take a look at it, and do you know what it is? Anybody know what this is? A donut? It kind of looks like a donut, but is it a donut? We don't know. Let's find out. So it's actually the eye of our beloved flying spaghetti monster. So it could have been anything. We didn't have enough information to really know the answer. And what we what we've experienced just now is a type of curiosity called de-curiosity or deprivation curiosity. This type of curiosity is driven by a lack of information and can feel like an itch that needs to be satisfied. So I'm sure everybody's had this experience when you're sitting around and you want to tell somebody something and it's really not that important of a detail, but you can't remember the name of this person and you cannot go on until you find that name of the person. And that's what this is. It's a deprivation curiosity. So when the conflict is resolved or the itch is scratched, we feel better. And so satisfying this type of curiosity is like reaching the destination, and doing so is the reward. But there's another type of curiosity, one that's called interest curiosity or I curiosity. And this is the type of curiosity that I want to talk about today. The driver behind this type of curiosity is general interest. We aren't looking for a specific answer so much as just general information. We just want to know more. Unlike deprivation curiosity, which is reaching a destination, interest curiosity is the journey itself. The reward is the learning that we get along the way. And I don't know about you, but when I experience interest curiosity, it often leads to a 4-hour late night date with Google that looks something like this, going down a rabbit hole. All right. So we've talked about some things that make us curious, and now we've experienced it. So let's talk about what happens in our brain. I'm going to talk about 2 different studies today. This first one was explained in a 2012 TEDx talk called The Case for Curiosity by Mario Livio. He described, his study was described by looking at fMRI brain images while the subject was experiencing curiosity. When curiosity is aroused, these areas of the brains lit up, and they're associated with hunger or wanting and conflict. And this makes sense. So when we have a hunger for knowledge, or if we don't know something, we can feel conflicted about it. Like, what is it? Like, kind of like we experienced with the eye of the spaghetti monster. And when that curiosity is satisfied, this is a region of the brain that is activated. The accumbens is a neural interface between motivation and action, and its most widely recognized function is its role in pleasure, reward, pleasure and reward in the brain. And this is where the neurotransmitter dopamine, often associated with feelings of pleasure, is located. In fact, Mario Livio said in his TEDx talk that satisfying our curiosity is like having good sex. So personally, I think this is proof that atheists have better sex. And that's because we're less likely to be satisfied with the status quo or to accept an answer that doesn't fully explain the question. So we tend to be more curious. So you do the math there. All right. All right, more recent studies indicate that dopamine is not only released during positive experiences, but also during experiences that can be deemed negative. In this way, dopamine signaling may be involved with storing information about environmental stimuli associated with these different types of experiences. These memories can later help us remember how to repeat the pleasurable experiences or how to avoid the negative ones. In addition to pleasure and rewards, dopamine is also associated with motivation. So what this means for us is that as our curiosity is satisfied, in this way, as we can look at curiosity as a habit or a habit loop: trigger, routine, reward. The trigger is feeling curious, the routine is learning, and the reward is a dopamine burst. And if we understand curiosity in this way, it becomes clearer how to reinforce it as a habit. So I'm going to come back to this later and talk about how we can reinforce it as a habit, but I want to tell you about the other study first. All right, so this is a study by cognitive neuroscientist Matthias Gruber. He and his team conducted a study on how curiosity worked in the brain and its impact on learning. What they found is fascinating, and he gave a TEDx talk in 2015 called "This is Your Brain on Curiosity." So like the previous study, they used fMRI imaging to look at the brain during episodes of curiosity. His experiment had 3 parts. The first stage, participants rated their curiosity on a scale of 1 to 5 to a series of trivia questions. So they were given a question and they were asked to rate how curious they were about that question. In the second stage, they were given the answer and their brain was scanned while they received the answer and up and right before it. So they were made to wait 14 seconds before they were given the answer. And this allowed the scientists to watch the brain as it was, as the curiosity was ramping up. So as it was peaked, but not yet satisfied. And then the third stage gave them the answer. And then they looked at what the brain did when it was given the answer. And so like the previous study, they found that the accumbens area of the brain was activated. It actually looks a little, I can see how this doesn't look so clear, but in here, this is where it's activated here. And then down here, sorry, I can see that that's not real clear up on the screen there. So like the previous study, they found that the accumbens area of the brain was activated. And remember, this is the area that's associated with motivation and reward. Additionally, they found that there was an increase in activity in the hippocampus, which is the region of the brain associated with memory. With both, the relation was positive. The stronger their curiosity, the stronger the learning. The weaker the curiosity, the weaker the level of activation. So in other words, experiencing curiosity physically primes the brain for forming memories or learning. So as they were curious about something, they also learned more as well. And this is not really that surprising, right? I mean, it makes sense that if we're curious about something, learning about it's going to be easier. But seeing it play out in our brain, I think, is really fascinating. The cool thing, though, is the findings did not stop there between curiosity and learning. So in this study, Gruber and his team added a picture of a neutral face during the 14-second interval between the time that they were asked the question and they rated their curiosity and the time they were given the answer. The face had nothing to do with anything. It was just out there. So the team found that that the participants were better able to remember the answers to trivia questions about which they were more curious. Again, not really shocking. But interestingly enough, they were able to better remember the faces that, remember, were completely unreal. About. So this was true even 24 hours later. So it's kind of this, what he described as a vortex of learning. So to learn not just what has piqued our interest, but other things unrelated, which we are incidentally exposed to. And so this has some really cool implications for learning, especially with school and whatnot, that teachers can take from this and help kids' brains. This is something that we can all apply to ourselves. Okay, so what do we, when do we get curious? Here is a chart that more or less maps out our level of curiosity against our level of knowledge. At the far left, when we know nothing, we're not really curious at all, right? If something's not on our radar, we don't know that there's something to be curious about, so we don't have curiosity there. But on the far right, when we're an expert and already know everything, we also have less curiosity. So the knowledge gap between knowing nothing and knowing everything, that is where curiosity lives. It's the sweet spot. And if it were Goldilocks, that's where she would be. It's not too hard, not too soft. So anybody here familiar with Dale McGowan? Okay, Dale is a really cool person, and he's written several books, Atheism for Dummies. He wrote Raising Freethinkers, Parenting Beyond Belief, which for me, as I became a parent 22 years ago, I wish that I had even then, but it wasn't until my oldest was about 10 that I found it. And it's just a group of essays written by different people, but it's really powerful because so many of us are first-time secular parents to kind of have this set of shared experiences between from other people. I think the sign went out, but everybody can hear me? Okay. Dale McGowan, is anybody familiar with Foundation Beyond Belief? Well, Dale was also the founder of that, and he's done some other things. Blue Sky, is it called Blue Sky Media? That sounds, oh, Only Sky, yeah, Only Sky. He's done that as well. So he has a podcast, although I don't think there are any new episodes recently, but if you have any interest in this, I highly, highly recommend anything by Dale McGowan. There is this podcast that he, the one episode of Raising Free Thinkers, that's my favorite, is called The Curious Root of Everything. And that was ultimately kind of what inspired this talk. In it, he explained how the most frustrating question he got as a parent was, if you could give your child only one value or one skill, what would it be? And he said he struggled with this for a long time, and finally he came up with an answer for it, and that's curiosity. And I loved this so much because it's exactly like what I felt, and I think what most parents feel, but he just articulated it so much better than I ever could. But what he says is that curiosity is the root of many other values that humanists, secular people, etc. hold. For instance, curiosity can lead to an investigation of the world. If you're curious, you're going to go searching. Curiosity leads to scientific inquiry. When we try to do something and it doesn't quite work, we make adjustments and try again. Kids begin their lives as little scientists, always just trying different things, and don't even really think about or go. That's what they do. Curiosity leads to atheists' favorite skill, and that's critical thinking. And being curious motivates us to learn something from all sides. So we're not satisfied with just the quick, easy, because somebody told us so. We want to see it for ourselves, and we want to see it from all angles. Another important skill to that too. When people imagine a better way of doing things, or even that there can be a better way of doing things, this is when innovation happens. And in my opinion, like this is this one might not be quite as lead to courage. So this is because when we are curious and come to learn things that may or may not be what was originally thought, it can cause us to have to reevaluate our own thinking. And that's a very uncomfortable thing to have to do. It's also uncomfortable when that new way of thinking does not line up with the thinking of everybody else around us, something I'm sure that everybody in this room can appreciate and has experienced. So it can take to stand alone. To know them, we come to see our commonalities, and the us versus them barrier breaks down. We can imagine a better world for everyone. Empathy is heightened by curiosity. And the last one I want to mention is happiness. There was a happiness study done in Switzerland, and it was reported that one of the 2 leading factors in happiness for the participants is learning something new. All right. So we free thinkers, we love evolution. And I want to touch on evolution, so to speak, of curiosity across one's life. So children, that's the little person on here, express curiosity in very different ways than they do as they grow into adults. Children ask lots of questions, whereas adults ask fewer questions as they age. Adults' questions are also different in nature. Adults ask pragmatic questions. Kids ask the big questions. The thinking of adults generally lives within a box, sometimes even a closed box. Kids, on the other hand, are so far out of the box, they don't even have a box. Kids don't know yet what's possible and what isn't, so they're full of possibilities in their thinking. And their thinking is not so much answers to questions as solutions to problems, because this is more of an experience thing for them. They're just kind of looking to see what fits, what doesn't, whereas adults sometimes look more for just an answer. rather than a problem to fix. Children are also fearless when it comes to questions. They will ask away. Most adults have developed a fear of asking questions. They don't want to look stupid. Or they've been conditioned as children that asking questions isn't good. So, oops, well, here's curiosity, and it's killing the cat, poor kitty. So we've all grown up, knowing that curiosity killed the cat. We've seen the tropes in religion about disobedient women, Eve and the pile of salt that poor woman got turned into. The Bible and Christianity are not big fans, especially of curious women. And we have to get better about creating a culture of curiosity than our religious counterparts. And I think we actually do a much better job. Because it's curiosity that allows us to move forward, to innovate, to not accept the status quo. And it is this that makes curiosity atheism's superpower. Our religious counterparts may be content to stop at a convenient answer, but ease and convenience don't make changes. We have to be better about being patient with children's endless questioning, and we need to be more supportive of their blossoming, albeit woefully, hypotheses about the world. And when it comes to their blossoming, albeit woefully inaccurate hypotheses about the world, the worst thing you can say in response is this. Well, actually, so, they want to come up with this story about how, why the waves move the way they do, or where mountains were formed. And it's these kind of really cute, but, ridiculous ideas. And we know that that's not going to be, but we should not feel the need to correct them with, well, actually, the way it works is this. They're not going to turn into adults that still believe the crazy ideas that they've come up with to explain the world. So don't do it. Don't squash their ideas. Let them continue to be curious. They'll find a better answer. You can praise their efforts. All right. So I said earlier that curiosity could be viewed as a habit with its trigger, routine, reward loop. The trigger is wanting to know something, the routine is the learning, and the reward is a dopamine burst. I want to come back to that now and talk about some tangible steps that can be taken to build a habit of curiosity. You know what? All right, now I should have done that. Sorry. All right, so establishing a habit of curiosity. Here are some things that you can do. So authorize curiosity. Make it okay to be curious. Make it okay to ask questions. I know it can be frustrating and tiresome sometimes, but let it be okay to ask questions. Make curiosity a part of one's identity, and this is important. I think that it seems that the reason that so many Christians are upset with questioning their beliefs is that their beliefs are such a part of their identity. So to question their beliefs is to question their identity. But this can work on the other way as well. So when something's a part of our identity and it can be something positive, we're going to lead with that. So make curiosity a part of your identity, a part of kids' identities, and that'll make a big difference. Normalize not knowing. Not knowing something is not a reflection of one's intelligence. It simply means we don't know yet, and that's okay. So let's help normalize it's okay to not know. Okay, when it comes to failure, this is a big one too, I think, is normalize failure or redefine it really. So oftentimes that we see this failure as a lack of trying rather than based on outcome. And that's what we need to see it as. It's a lack of trying rather than based on outcome. And instead, think of it as unexpected outcomes as unexpected outcomes. It doesn't mean that we failed. We just didn't get the outcome that we expected, but that's okay. Because if curiosity is part of our identity, arriving at unexpected outcomes is not devastating. It's just part of the journey. Is anybody here, probably women more so, familiar with Spanx? It's an undergarment that holds your belly in, makes you look real thin. Anyway, the woman that designed that, her name is Sarah Blakely, and she said in an interview that I watched, one of the things that her dad did growing up with them, her and her brother at the dinner table, is ask them every day, what did you fail at today? because for him, failure wasn't about failing or not succeeding. It was about trying. And so she grew up with this idea of that failing is something that you should do often because it means that you're trying. And she ultimately invented this undergarment that has made a lot of money for her. Make it okay to be wrong. Finding the answer is more, it's easier if an identity of curiosity has already been established, because it can be hard to be wrong. But again, if the value is that we are learning, then it's easier to accept that we're wrong and can replace it with something that is actually right. We want to reduce silos. It may feel good to have one's ideas reinforced, but exposure to different things, ideas, and people allow for much more growth. So silos, on the other hand, curtail curiosity. We want to that doesn't line up with my slides. All right, well, we want to praise instances of curiosity, which can be hard sometimes because they can be tedious. And we want to provide exposure to different things. So you don't know what you don't know. We've already established that. But by exposing kids and adults even to different things, it's going to increase the opportunity for creating a spark of interest. Make time to engage in, boy, these don't line up at all. All right, well, make time to engage in discovery. It's not enough to just ask questions. We need to spend time exploring. And we need to create that safe space for questions. So make it okay to ask questions, make questions normal. One of the things that Dale McGowan also talked about in this podcast was that he used to, back in his day, back in probably all of our days, we had our Google came in the form of a book and in the form of a set of books called encyclopedias. And he would like to pull out an encyclopedia, just flip it over, open, and wherever his finger landed, that's what he would read about. And we don't have those today, but we have Google. And so I know that kids today spend too much time on the internet, but it can be a good thing when it comes to expanding their exposure to different things, that they can learn about things that we don't know, that they don't know, that they don't know. I think the real challenge is in finding good sources, but still, like, give them time to go explore on their own interest. Stay in the moment, limit distractions, provide opportunities for open play. So when kids engage in open play, they follow their interests and make up their own rules, and they imagine the world that they want. And then model curiosity yourself. So here are some ways to model curiosity. Ask why. I don't know that that needs a lot of modeling, but it is important to show. What surprised you today? What if? What if is a big one. You know, we do something different, because now we're not only talking about what is, but what could be. I wonder, what surprised you today? Is there a better way? Why should we accept this? And this is a step up. The why should we accept this? This is a step up from the what if and is there a better way? Because now we're questioning what is good, what is fair, and it also engages the realization that there can be, that they themselves can be agents of change. Tell me more. Wow. I never thought about it that way. So when they come up with these ridiculous theories about how things work, you don't need to squash it and say, well, actually, this is how they work. You could say, wow, and I never thought about it that way, because it's probably true. You probably hadn't thought about it that way. What's next, which I think is also a big one, because again, curiosity is a journey, not a destination. So we should keep on thinking, never settle, never stop, just keep going. What's next? And then, so we can make it a habit by enforcing these behaviors. So I'm going to just kind of a little bit with the camp that I run. It's a secular summer camp. Maybe you've heard of Camp Quest. I know that there's one here in Texas. It's a very similar camp. But Camp 42 is an overnight summer camp for kids 8 to 17 years old. And it has all the fun traditional summer camp activities that summer camp is known for. But our programs are designed with a humanist philosophy. And we're designed for kids from non-religious families. That doesn't mean it's not an atheist program. Like, I don't even know what that is, other than it's a program that doesn't have a belief in God. But even Camp 42's name is based in humanist philosophy. So I'll just give you one quick 42 is, and if you have any interest in the others, I can tell you them later, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to give you one. So maybe two. So when I say 42, or if you hear 42, what comes to mind? Yeah. Hitchhiker's Guide to the yeah, so it's the ultimate answer to life, the meaning, to life, the universe, and everything. And I think it's kind of cool that Douglas Adams was also an atheist, and I think he would approve of this if he were alive. But as humanists, or whatever title you give yourself, we don't believe that there is an afterlife. We believe that this life is all that there is. And we need to make the best of it, and that we need to make, we're responsible for our own meaning. And so 42 for us represents engaging the campers to be active agents of their own life, and to find their own meaning, to make the meaning in their life here and now. I said one, but I might do two others, because there's another big one that sometimes people associate 42 with. What's that? It's 7 times 6, that's true. But the other one is Jackie Robinson's jersey number. So for us, 42 is also social equality, because Jackie Robinson was the first Black baseball player to break the barrier into professional sports. And he was chosen, and I thought it was interesting too, that baseball wasn't even his favorite sport, but that's irrelevant. That he was chosen, and for the first maybe 2 years, that he really had to suffer a lot and to hold his tongue. He could not, because he was the ambassador, and he could not give any reason for anybody to throw him out. He had to really suck it up. And that is so admirable, that what he did, not just for himself, but for everybody, for any the other Black people, so that they could have a place at the table. And so for us, 42 is speaking out for everybody, and to making sure that everybody has a place at the table. All right, so curiosity is the top of the list of our values that we bring to camp. With everything we do, we try to imagine a better world, a more innovative world. We want to redefine what's normal, so that normal means that we live in a just world where everyone is treated with respect and dignity. And so I'm going to close with this verse. It's a sacred verse. It's verse Camp 42, 2022. It says, "So go forth, be curious and multiply your questions, and explore the earth, and be amazed by it, and have empathy for the fish of the sea, and for the birds of the heavens, and for every living thing that moves on the earth." So this is the end, not the end of the journey. Remember, keep thinking. It's just the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning. Thank you for your presentations. Interesting. I just want to get your thoughts on the concept of cancel culture. And I think the right and the personal opinion, I think the right and the left are equally guilty of this, in which maybe somebody might express an idea that might not be quote unquote woke, but with a little nuance and is open-minded. And instead of engaging with that person, if they express them, like for example, somebody said, okay, I agree with BLM on a lot of things, but here's the things I disagree with. I have heard stories of people just for expressing that getting fired from their jobs, as opposed to trying to have a very nuanced conversation, and are making some people, feel like they have to walk on eggshells, so they can't ever ask any clarification questions. I want to get your thoughts on the cancel culture in this country, and it comes with the right as well.
Okay, so that's a really interesting question, and something I've thought kind of a lot about. So I'm going to answer that partially with something that happened at camp. At camp, we want the kids to be able to have difficult conversations and to have conversations with people that with whom they don't necessarily share the same views, because it's about learning and listening to the other person, not necessarily about being right, but about understanding and finding commonalities and accepting people. Unsurprisingly, most of our kids come from pretty liberal families. But it's not a requirement. And we had a camper, this was pre-COVID, I don't remember when, but we had a camper that had some strong opinions on Muslims. And I don't even remember what the specific opinion was, but it was a minority opinion. And we had another camper whose paternal side, that there was some Muslim heritage there. And so he took a lot of offense, and the kids had gotten kind of upset with this one camper whose opinion wasn't one that really aligned with our values. But I think that everybody expected us to kind of come down on him for that. And I want the campers I think it's more important personally to be able to have not necessarily a safe space where people feel like they will never be offended, but a brave space where we can have conversations about things and not resort to them being a reflection of that person. I'm hoping I'm making sense with that, because there are so many different examples and situations, and it's really hard to give one answer. Because, generalizations with anything, you're going to miss something. But I do think it's important to try to find commonalities where you can. There are going to be egregious things, and I don't want to say to never do that, I guess. But my personal approach is that I would personally try to have a conversation rather than to just stop it because there's a disagreement. There was actually a conversation that I was having with my son on the way here, something that happened several years ago. I don't remember the details, and they're not super important, but there was something with some cops in Florida several years ago that they were sexy cops or something, and the internet loved them. But then somebody had found, like 4 years before that, one of them had made a Holocaust joke on Facebook, and it was definitely an off-color joke. And I'm not gonna make excuses for his joke, but everybody was ready to say that he was a Nazi or a neo-Nazi because of it. And my stance on that is, I mean, maybe he is, but I think we need more evidence. So I'm not personally ready to just wipe somebody off because of one thing without learning more. So I don't know if that really answered your question. Okay.
All right, we have time for one more question.
What's the difference between questioning and curiosity? Like, can you be curious but not question?
That's a very interesting question. So I don't know that I've thought about it quite in those terms, but I think that, no, I don't think that you can be curious without questioning. I think that part of it has to be, and maybe this is where we get into, defining terms like question. What do you mean by questioning authority? Based questioning, even if it's a question that you don't consciously ask. It's, I wonder how this works is a form of a question stated as a statement. So that's what I would say. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Our community moment is by Jobouy Thompson. He is a member of our Oasis community, and along with my husband, Ken, have been deemed the new groundskeepers or coffee makers for Oasis. So if you have any issues, there you go. Jobouy's going to discuss the basis for acceptance of a fact and the acquisition of knowledge. So help me welcome Jobouy, please.
Today we talk about knowledge. Why? people like me, I don't know much more about Mr. Bacon. This I just. If knowledge is power, what would we call knowledge about knowledge? Superpower? Extra power? I don't know. You can name it. This is another gentleman said something about Voltaire. I said, I don't know much about Voltaire. This I copied. If you wish to converse with me, define your terms. Why? Why is it important? Because if you say something, I'm the same thing. I said yesterday, hi darling, bill is $85. She said, no, it was only $7 yesterday. Well, I was talking about crude oil. She was talking about cooking oil. Therefore, if you qualify, define things clear, we understand each other more clearly. Inspired by Voltaire's suggestion, you find things well before you talk or while you talk, so that you talk about things with the same. For the sake of starting, let's define knowledge as knowledge is the understanding of a subject. As a working definition, we need to have some definition to start. So this is a basic definition I chose. Knowledge is the understanding of a subject. There are varieties of knowledge. If you Google, you'll find 10, 20 different descriptions or classifications of knowledge. We don't need all of them for today's discussion. We need only one actually. But I will just rush through a few of them which are important, just very quickly. Factual knowledge. Knowledge about certain things or a person. Yeah, I know this person, I know this place. That's a knowledge about a factual knowledge. Procedural knowledge. How do you do certain things? How to do certain things? I know driving, I know swimming, etc. That's factual knowledge, procedural knowledge. Conceptual knowledge. I know certain principles or theories or formulas. That's conceptual knowledge. Multiplying two negative numbers will yield a positive number. So it's a concept. That's conceptual knowledge. Metacognitive knowledge is strategy or reflection or self-assessment. You think about few things and you figure out few things. And then you reflect, establish a strategy of how to do certain things. And that knowledge is called cognitive knowledge. Explicit knowledge is another way of classifying knowledge. It's documented. You can read about it. You gain the no. He sings, so these talents might be called implicit. A priori knowledge, knowledge that is gained independently of any experience or logic. So you say that every mother has had a child. It's that knowledge, you don't need any experience, you know it by a fact, as a fact. A posteriori knowledge. Posterior knowledge is derived from experience, evidence. Sun is warm, water is wet, or snow is cold. That's a posterior knowledge. But for today's discussion, we need only one item. This is called propositional knowledge. Means where you express a judgment or opinion stating something is correct or incorrect. That's propositional knowledge. That's today's discussion. It's also called declarative or descriptive knowledge. Propositional knowledge is the understanding or belief that some proposition is true or false. So now we need to define a proposition. A proposition is a statement of assertion that expresses a judgment or an opinion of which truth value can be ascertained. You can say something and then find out whether it is true or not. That is proposition. Examples of proposition. It's raining outside. False. Sun rises in the east. Yeah, it appears. Biden is the president. We are sure. The sky is blue. It appears to be so, but may not be blue. So we encounter a new word there in the previous page, truth. So let's try to define truth. Truth can be defined as the quality or state of being in accordance with reality. If it is real, it's true. If it is not real, it's untrue. So let's imagine we have a big container and all the truths around are put into this container, big box. It doesn't look like a box, but it was intended to be a box. So we hit a new word here, reality. So let's explain reality or define reality. Reality is the world or the state of things as they exist. Reality is exactly what exists around you. That's real. That was easy. So we had another word in the previous page called belief. Let's try to define belief. Belief is the acceptance of a proposition as either true or false. I agree this is true, I disagree it is, then it's a belief. Another container, let's say all the beliefs around you can be put into a container and a box. We have got all beliefs in that box, a round container. So there are other different words of expressing beliefs, but basically we use the term beliefs here, but others are a little bit confusing. Now we get to knowledge. What is knowledge? Here it says, or it appears that if you have truth and all the tons of belief, it becomes knowledge only when it is true and it is believed. So we can say that we have improved our position about knowledge. Knowledge is a subset of belief and justified truth. Now we hit a new word, justified. We will have to deal with justified later. So a proposition becomes knowledge when it is true, justified, and believed. Otherwise, it's not knowledge. It is just understanding or thought or claim. So how is truth justified? By evidence. How? Which are the evidence? Visible fact, you can see that. Tangible, you can touch it. It's logically reasonable. You saw it, the witness, you can see it. It is very circumstantial, the butler killed or the maid. Substantial, statistical data. So we have somebody studied about it and you have the information about it. So it's statistical data can be used as an evidence. Then scientific evidence, you can test the thing, you can repeat the test, you can find out the accuracy, it can be falsified. These are all scientific methods of developing evidence for truth. These are good evidence. Then there are bad evidences. People always use the stories, my personal experience, I heard them saying there is things contradicting to each other, or a lot of popular things. There are many people think so, that could be popular, that could be an evidence. No. Absence of explanation. I don't know nothing about it, so this should be this way, or statement of authority. Some big people said so some day ago, or some months ago, some years ago, so that should be an evidence. No. Or it's a long-standing tradition. My family, my grandparents' family, their grandparents' family, all believed so, did so. That should be an evidence. That should be true. These are bad evidences. Now, let's go for an illustration how knowledge works. There is a proposition. This is a proposition. Agree with us. Proposition. There is a God. Question is it justified truth? Yes. Because it is said in the books, it's said in the book. I have real experience about God. A lot of people, thousands of millions of people believe that. It's a long-standing tradition since 2 centuries, 20 centuries, etc., etc. So there are a lot of evidence to support, to consider that the existence of God as truth. So, what did I do? Okay, can it be believed? That's the question now. Yes, it can be believed because we have all the evidence above mentioned. So in this case, God can be considered as, the existence of God can be considered as a knowledge. Let's see, another set of people think that no, it is not justified truth. Because whatever you brought evidence are not acceptable. Because, your experience are just anecdotal, it is not statistics. A lot of people believe so, it's just appealing to the popularity, it's a logical fallacy. or appealing to tradition. It has been believed several years, several decades, so several centuries. That doesn't count as a valid evidence because another fallacy. So the conclusion there is it is not justified to believe for that set of people on this side of the spectrum. So they might end up saying the conclusion that God is just a claim. All right. What do we get here? This side of the wall, you'll get a believer or atheist with that kind of acceptance of belief. On the other side, you get another set of people, agnostic, atheist, non-believer, whatever title they might use. So how this happened? How come this difference of understanding about God with or without evidence happened? Because the first set of group of people accepted bad evidences. The other set of people rejected bad evidence. So if you reject bad evidence, you get to know things that counts to knowledge. If you accept bad evidences, you get to believe wrong things, and that doesn't count to become knowledge. So let's improve our position about knowledge. You have truth, you have beliefs, and in that middle, you may have a smaller amount of items now to be considered as knowledge. The rest are just poorly justified beliefs. They just believe it, but they are poorly justified. So we started with the understanding. It's knowledge. The yellow? Yes. Yeah, sorry. It is knowledge. This part is knowledge. Previously, we had considered this part, whole part as knowledge, but now we found out that some of the knowledge they consider as knowledge is just poorly justified beliefs. So we have to eliminate that part from the whole bunch, and we just take only those justified truths or beliefs. So when we started knowledge with this definition. Knowledge is understanding of a subject. That was our working definition in the beginning. Let's see where we reach that. Our new definition could be knowledge is a justified true belief. So we have improved our definition on knowledge as far as propositional knowledge is concerned. Thank you. I expect corrections. Please give me corrections. That was not. There was no QA plan, right? There was no QA plan, was it? Can I take questions? Should I take questions? No, it was not planned. We can talk outside at the coffee break. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, folks, thanks everyone for being here. We've already had some very generous donations in the Black Hat, so don't forget that we pay the musicians, we pay rent, and we're going to try to get our own building someday. So if you're able to drop a little bit in the Black Hat or use one of our very convenient methods, which are outlined in the back, please do that. But if you're not able to give, that's okay. We just love having you here. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Benjamin and Jobouy and Amy for being here today. I just want to mention a couple of things we have coming up. We have Houston Oasis cards on the 16th. We have a bicycle ride on the 20th. And on Sunday, November 27th, we're having a potluck, which is very exciting. We can go back and have a potluck. It's been a long time. So next week, Paige Williams will be doing the community moment, and Aaron Rabinowitz, who is a lecturer in philosophy and at Rutgers University and host of the Embrace the Void and Philosophers in Space podcast. So it should be a very exciting day. All right, Benjamin Grafton hails from Clear Lake, Texas. He got his start in music early, singing in school choirs. Upon discovering Elton John, Benjamin undertook a self-study of piano, eventually picking up guitar as well. He's a strong singer, songwriter, and with a soulful voice and a passion for beautiful music. And help me welcome Benjamin Grafton. So with that said, please go out and have a safe week and enjoy yourselves. Thank you for being here.
Crazy how it goes so fast when it feels like forever. I know you know how to make it last 90 days and it's over. Show me off and show me under all the treasures that I seek in the darkness lying near you, sharing secrets that we speak. Time and time again, you bring me back. 90 days to make it last. Baby, bring me back. Oh, baby, bring me back. Closer to me, 'cause I feel you. Nothing ties us to our past. I know one day I will lose you. Game plays out so fast. Time and time again, you bring me back. 90 make it last. Baby, bring me back. Oh, baby, bring me back. Crazy how it goes so fast when it feels like forever. I know you know how to make it last 90 days and it's over. 90 days and it's over. It's over.